I'm Carolyn Haack, a longtime member of CAI Illinois and a longtime board member for my Community Association's Master Board and also my individual building board. I've earned my decal over the years and learned a lot about budgeting. So we're going to talk about some things that we've discovered here about fearless budgeting. I find, first off, is that you never quit planning for your budgets. There are things that come up as you go along, capture them, and then you're in better shape to get started. Secondly, draft your should-do budget, all the things that ought to go into the budget you're working on. Then you review that carefully under a managed conversation, and you have your can-do budget. That goes then out to your owners and you finish up your administrative process. So that's worked well for us. I'll go into a little more detail. In terms of preparation, again, it's ongoing. Create a document for each of the next several years. And as things come up, maybe you had a plumbing issue that's going to need to be readdressed in 3 years. Have a document with that year as its title and just drop that reminder in there. Doesn't need to be formatted, doesn't need to be prioritized, just it's a dump list. So when you get to that year, you're reminded naturally and you don't have to worry about trying to remember everything. Also, keep track of your contracts. Similarly, make yourself a chart of all the contracts that your association has, when they're going to cycle, a few details about it, perhaps this contract pricing versus last contract pricing, a couple hints. And at the beginning of your board year, remind everyone of the contracts that are going to cycle at the end of the year and make your determination. Are you going to take those out to bid this cycle? Depending on how long your relationship with this vendor is and how you feel about it, you can take out to bid every contract, but that's a lot of effort. Often every 2 or 3 cycles is sufficient to be sure that you're still with market rates. But again, start that early so that by early summer, if you're on a calendar year, you have bids from competing vendors, and you've gotten those bids based on a good quality RFP. So your request for proposals details out the work that you want to have done, and the bids that you get are apples to apples, and you really can compare them. So that's a lot of the preparation. Again, goes on all the time. Just give yourself that safety factor of those little dump lists by year, so you know that you're going to remember everything when you need to. So now you create next year's should-do budget. You should renovate a big planting on your grounds because it's close to the entrance and it's getting old and tired. You should replace a front door because it's gotten to the point where it really can't be repaired. Those sorts of things. You should increase your contribution to your reserve fund because you need to follow the advice that's in your reserve study. Put all of those things into your budget. You've done whatever research you can into what utility costs will be. You've got your insurance updated. All those things go into your should-do budget. And then you share that with your board and ask them to give it to them in advance. Give them a chance to really think about it, because these are the things that the board and others have talked about throughout the year as good aspirational goals. So now you're going to have your board meeting to discuss that should-do budget and see how it is sitting. If it is an amount of money or a percentage of increase that's causing discomfort, then this is the time to amend it. But you want to control that conversation and say, okay, it's not going to work to say we can't raise it more than X dollars or we can't raise it more than Y%. What does work is, what are we not going to do to save the amount of money we feel that we should save? So that's the conversation to have and the control that you need in running that meeting. That, vague vague goals don't get you anywhere. You really need to talk about the absolute specifics. No, we're not going to renovate that bed. This door will have to be repaired one more time, whatever it is you're looking at, so that the following year, as that budget is being spent as approved, people come to you and say, you know, we've talked about renovating that garden bed for 2 years now. When is it going to happen? Well, the decision is it's not going to happen this year. So we'll see if we can work it into the budget next year. But you don't have the weak position of, well, we just didn't have the money. No, we looked at our priorities, we made a choice, and this is what we're doing this year. So you adopt, but finally, that's your can-do budget. We looked at what all the things we should do. Some of them were beyond our reach this year. This is what we can do. Okay, and you adopt that and send it forward to your property manager or your accountant, whoever's going to do the rest of the work. So finally, you have your can-do budget. It's going to go out probably with your invitation to your annual meeting, maybe with a second budget for master board and like that. And you're going to wrap up the administration to put this into motion. So your owners will ratify it at your annual meeting. You'll have provided a cover note explaining what did get done in the year that's closing, and what you are planning to do, and if necessary, what you're not planning to do. You don't usually want to focus on the negative, but there might be something that was deferred that's important to address. And finally, then whoever does your books will issue a formal final note to owners about any change in the monthly assessments, and any other instructions that might be required if they're going to send new coupon books. If your owners have an auto debit set up, but they need to change it to the new amount, remind them so that people don't get caught off base. So if you run your budget process that way, which really is, it never stops, I believe that you will find yourself properly funded, and you'll be executing your goals and aspirations in an orderly way. Have a good time with it.